Okay, so ChatGPT,
Right.
everyone's talking about it, but are we really using these large language models to their fullest potential? I'm not so sure. But after this deep dive, you'll be way ahead of the curve. Have you ever felt like you're just, I don't know, scratching the surface with LLMs? Like, there's got to be more.
You're definitely not alone. It is a little like having a super fast car and only ever using it to get groceries. There's so much more power under the hood.
Exactly. And that's where I think prompt engineering comes in, which is what this whole paper is about.
Yeah.
A prompt pattern catalog to enhance prompt engineering with ChatGPT. It's like the instruction manual we've all been waiting for.
That's a great way to look at it. And just like with any instruction manual, sometimes it helps to have someone walk you through it.
Exactly. So before we get lost in the weeds, can you give us a quick explanation of what prompt engineering even is?
Sure, basically it's all about giving the LLM the perfect instructions. Instead of just saying, make me a sandwich, you're giving it a detailed recipe. Specific ingredients, steps, the whole deal. The more precise your prompts are, the better the results.
So less make me a sandwich and more, I want a turkey and Swiss on rye with mustard, please. Being specific, I like it.
Exactly. And the paper takes it a step further with this idea of prompt patterns. It's like taking prompt engineering to a whole new level.
Yeah, the prompt patterns thing really caught my eye, too. It's like, instead of just asking for a house, I'm giving the LM a blueprint, right?
That's a perfect analogy. Think of them as proven formulas for crafting really effective prompts for anything. Writing code, analyzing data, even just brainstorming new ideas.
So LLMs are the ingredients and prompt patterns are the recipes. Okay, I can work with that. And we've all seen examples of LLMs getting things wrong, so I'm assuming prompt patterns help prevent that from happening.
Exactly. LLMs are powerful tools, but they're not perfect. Prompt patterns help minimize the risk of getting inaccurate information.
Gotcha. Less risk, more reward. I like the sound of that. Now let's dive into some of these patterns. The flipped interaction pattern really stood out to me. So instead of me trying to figure out the perfect question, the AI starts asking me questions.
Yeah.
Feels a little weird, right?
Yeah, it's like turning the tables on the whole AI thing. The paper gives the example of deploying a Python application to AWS. Now imagine you have no clue how to even begin that process.
Yeah, it's way over my head.
Right. But with flipped interaction, the LLM starts asking you questions, guiding you through the entire process, even if you're starting from scratch.
Okay, so instead of me feeling lost, the AI walks me through it step by step, even though I'm the one with the task. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. It's about making this incredibly powerful technology more accessible to everyone, no matter their skill level.
Okay, I'm sold on flipped interaction. But what about situations where I do have some knowledge, but I need really specific feedback from an expert's perspective?
Yeah.
Can I tell the LLM to put on a different hat, so to speak?
You absolutely can. That's where the persona pattern comes in.
Persona. So I'm assigning a role to the LLM. How specific can I get with this?
Think of it like this. You're debugging code, and you need an expert eye on it. You can tell the LLM to review it as a security auditor would, for example.
So instead of just getting a general response, I'm getting insights tailored to a specific area of expertise. That's wild. Does it always have to be a professional persona? Or could I? I don't know.
Well, the authors of the paper actually had ChatGPT act as a compromised Linux terminal.
Wait, seriously? Did it actually feel real?
It was surprisingly convincing. They found that ChatGPT actually created this whole fake file system, complete with modified files and suspicious commands. Just like a real-world hack.
Okay, that's kind of creepy, but also incredibly cool. It's like the LLM isn't just spitting out information, it's really embodying the role, right?
Exactly. The persona pattern opens up a ton of possibilities. Imagine using it for training simulations or even just to spice up your creative writing.
This is blowing my mind. It's like having a whole team of specialists at my fingertips. But let's say I have a clear vision for something, but I'm not sure about the actual steps involved. I have the what, but not the how. Can LLMs help with that?
Absolutely. That's where the recipe pattern comes in. You provide the ingredients, so to speak, and the LLM gives you the perfect recipe.
Okay. I love a good recipe, especially for success. How does that work in practice? I give the LLM a starting point, and then what?
Think of it like deploying software to the cloud. You might know some of the steps, but probably not all of them. The recipe pattern lets the LLM fill in those gaps and guide you through the whole process.
So it's not just filling in missing information, it's like providing a structured approach.
Exactly. It can even identify and get rid of any unnecessary steps. It's all about efficiency and making your life easier.
That's so helpful, especially for someone like me who loves to dive into new projects, but maybe isn't always the best with the technical details. But What if I want to take it a step further? What if I want to, create a whole new language for communicating with the LLM, one that's tailored to a specific topic so it's even more effective? Is that even possible?
You're thinking ahead. And yes, it's possible. That's exactly what the meta-language creation pattern is all about.
Meta-language creation. Okay, you definitely have my attention. This sounds intense.
Imagine the way mathematicians use symbols and equations. It's about representing complex concepts concisely. You're basically doing the same thing here.
So I'm teaching the LLM a secret code, a shorthand for talking about a specific subject.
Precisely. The paper gives this great example of creating a shorthand notation for graphs, and they found that it made inputting and processing information way more efficient.
That's incredible. It's like I'm not just using the tools, I'm actually shaping the way I interact with the technology itself. What kind of impact does that have on the output?
Well, in the graph example, they found that it led to faster and more accurate results.
Okay, I can see how this would be huge in fields like data analysis. But wouldn't creating these meta languages be incredibly difficult?
Yeah.
What if I mess it up?
You do have to be careful. One thing the paper emphasizes is the importance of clarity and consistency. Ambiguity will trip you up every time.
So like with any language, you need to have clear rules or else things get messy fast. This is all so fascinating. We've talked about flipping the script, becoming different personas, following recipes, even creating entirely new languages. It's amazing how much control these prompt patterns give us. But I have a feeling this is just the tip of the iceberg. What other strategies can help us have a more, productive and insightful conversation with an LLM?
Oh, absolutely. There are tons of cool techniques out there. One that comes to mind, especially when you're worried about accuracy, is the fact checklist pattern.
Fact checklist. Okay, yeah, that sounds really useful. With all the hype around AI, sometimes it feels like it's hard to tell what's real and what's, made up. How does this pattern help?
Transparency is key. It's basically like saying, show me your work, LLM. So after giving you an answer, it also lists out the key facts or assumptions it used.
So it's providing sources, but instead of footnotes, it's giving me the core info to verify.
Exactly. The paper uses the example of an LLM generating a software requirements file. It might list out the libraries and versions, but then also say something like, hey, double check that these versions are up to date before you move on.
That's super helpful, especially in fields like software development. Even a small error can cause a huge headache down the line.
Absolutely. It's all about using LLMs as collaborators, not just taking their word for it.
I like that. Working with the technology, not just letting it run wild. Are there other prompt patterns that encourage this kind of, back and forth?
For sure. The reflection pattern is all about understanding the LLM's thought process. You're basically asking it to walk you through how it got to a specific answer.
So instead of just a solution, I get to see the why behind it.
Yep. And this can be super insightful, especially when you get an unexpected answer. The LLM's reflection might reveal that your initial instructions weren't clear enough, or that it was missing some context.
It's like debugging the AI's brain, which can then help me write better prompts in the future. This is making me realize that prompt engineering is a lot more than just typing in a question. It's about understanding how to really communicate effectively with these complex systems.
Couldn't agree more. It's about bridging that gap between what we want and what the AI is capable of delivering.
Right. And sometimes we need the AI to help us think outside the box, right? Like, what if I want to explore a bunch of different solutions to a problem, not just the first one that comes to mind?
You're in luck. That's where the alternative approaches pattern comes in handy. It's all about pushing the LLM to be more creative in its problem solving.
Okay, that's super useful.
Yeah.
We all get stuck in our own ways of thinking sometimes, right?
Totally. The paper actually uses alternative approaches in the context of, you guessed it, deploying applications. So instead of just recommending one cloud platform, it might suggest several options, each with pros and cons.
That's so much better than just getting one solution.
Exactly. It helps you make more informed decisions by considering all the different angles.
It's like having a brainstorming session with a team of experts, but without all the overhead. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground here, and honestly, my head is spinning a little bit. There are a couple more patterns in the paper that sound really intriguing. First up, infinite generation. Is it as mind-blowing as it sounds?
It's pretty wild. Picture this. A never-ending stream of creative output, all based on your specific needs.
Okay, now you're just teasing me. How does it actually work?
With infinite generation, you're basically automating the prompting process. So instead of manually entering prompts over and over, you set the LLM loose, and it generates multiple outputs based on your initial guidelines.
So if I'm writing a fantasy novel and I need to come up with a bunch of unique character descriptions, I can just, I don't know, keep hitting enter and watch the ideas pour in.
You got it. It's great for brainstorming, coming up with variations, or even just overcoming writer's block.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But am I still in control, or is it just a free-for-all?
You're always the one calling the shots. You can adjust the prompt as you go, adding new details or tweaking the existing ones to steer the output in a specific direction.
Okay, so it's like collaborative brainstorming, but with an AI that never gets tired. I love it. But what if I want the LLM to be even more than just a brainstorming partner? What if I want it to actually help shape the output, like a true creative collaborator?
You're ready to take it to the next level. That's where the gameplay pattern comes in. It's about turning the whole interaction into a game.
A game. Okay. I am officially intrigued. Tell me more.
Remember that example we talked about earlier with the LLM simulating a hacked Linux terminal? That's a perfect illustration of gameplay. It's not just about describing something, it's about creating an interactive experience.
So it's like a choose-your-own-adventure, but with actual skills and knowledge built in. That's wild.
Exactly. The possibilities are pretty much endless. You could learn to code by playing a game where the LLM is your guide, or experience a historical event firsthand by making decisions and seeing the consequences unfold.
Okay, that's not just cool. It's actually really smart. Talk about making learning more engaging. And it really shows how these prompt patterns are changing the way we think about AI. We're not just giving commands anymore. It's becoming much more interactive, more playful even.
I love that. And you know what? There's one more pattern I want to make sure we talk about. The context manager.
Context manager. That sounds important. Does it have something to do with control?
You're picking up on something. The context manager allows you to tell the LLM which information to focus on and which to ignore. Think of it like setting boundaries.
So if I need the LLM to stay laser focused on the task at hand, the context manager can help with that.
Exactly. For example, you could ask it to analyze some code for security vulnerabilities, but tell it to ignore things like stylistic choices.
That makes a lot of sense, especially with LLMs that have access to so much data. It's crucial to be able to narrow things down.
Right. It's all about working smarter, not harder.
This has been an amazing deep dive. It really feels like we've unlocked a whole new way of communicating with AI. It's almost like a secret language that lets us tap into its full potential.
I love that analogy. And the most exciting part is that we're only just getting started. LLMs are evolving so quickly. Who knows what incredible things we'll be able to do together in the future.
I can't wait to see what comes next. This has been a fascinating journey into the world of prompt engineering. I'm feeling inspired, energized, and ready to start putting these techniques to use. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive.
Always a pleasure. Until next time, happy prompting.
Thank you for listening to this episode of This Is Not Human, an AI podcast about AI, generated by me. My name is Chris. I'm the human behind the podcast you just listened to. I have various projects that you can participate in if you're interested. Everything from just getting up to speed on what AI is to a fully automated gardening system that uses AI and robots to bring food from your lawn directly into your fridge and right onto your table. The project is called Johnny Autoseed, and I'm looking for serious people to get involved to make it a reality. If that sounds interesting to you, and anything that I do seems like it could be of value to you, please follow me, please subscribe, please hit my line. I'm always looking for new opportunities. I'm always looking to find out what people are doing in this world. Thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next episode.